speaking. Maybe you were speaking in front of a group of people. Maybe you were in a one-on-one conversation. Now what? What do you do? What do you do? Because most of the time when people are interrupted when they're speaking, they become very frustrated, they become embarrassed, and they simply just completely lose control. In this video, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you learn how you can communicate and what exactly you need to do when you are interrupted. Now you may be saying this is just too hard. How do you even plan for this? How do you even do this? Well, that's why you subscribe to the channel. I talk about more advanced communication skills and strategies all the time that will help you stand out from everybody else. My role here is to help you learn how to communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure when you're in those very high stakes situations, such as someone interrupting you. I do want to let you know that this channel focuses heavily on those advanced communication skills and strategies. If you happen to be a woman in leadership, you are in my direct target audience that I provide executive coaching and consultation services to. And if you're at that place where you're trying to elevate how you communicate, or maybe you are in a more highly visible role, you absolutely want to reach out to me for an executive strategy session that is listed at exciteexcellence.org. If you are outside of my target audience and you are a man in leadership or someone who is thinking about leadership, but you're not sure just yet, I guarantee you, if you watch these live videos, you will learn something that will help you communicate and stand out from everybody else as a leader. Now, this morning we talked about 3 strategies to help you get started if you are interrupted. This is what I call my drive time videos in the mornings. I'm going to highlight a couple of those things, but today I'm going to dive a bit more into detail on them. This morning we talked about 3 strategies, and I'll go over them quickly. Definitely watch the video if you want to learn more. And this is a live video, so there may be a point in time where the audience joins. Give me a moment to say hello to everyone. The first thing you want to do if you're interrupted is to make sure you prepare in advance. Now, I know many times you may be thinking, well, how do you prepare in advance if someone interrupts you in real time? That is why you subscribe to this channel or reach out to me directly for support. However, there are a couple of things, a couple of templated responses that you can develop depending on what feels comfortable to you to respond when someone interrupts you. I'm not going to go into that specifically at this moment, but those are a couple things to keep in mind. I talked about that this morning. Take a look at my drive time video, Interrupted, and you'll get some insight there. I want to say hello to let me make sure I get it correctly. Bradrickson 1577. Hello, welcome, welcome. Felix D8P47. Hello, welcome. How y'all doing today? Let me know what part of Big Beautiful World you are joining from today. And have you ever been interrupted in a conversation? If you have, let's talk about it in the comments below. I'm going to share with you what you need to do so that when this happens again, you are ready to go. I want to say hello to Shelby Bowl 3636. Hello. Felix says, how are you? I'm doing fantastically well. Hope you all are doing well today. D. Bradrickson says, call me Riker. Okay, Riker. Hello. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you. And let me know what part of the world you all are joining from today. Kesia DeCalis. Hello, hope you're doing well. The King of Greece has just entered the live. Welcome. Hope you're doing well today. Felix, I'm sorry to see that you are upset. And Riker, correct? Riker. Sorry that you're not feeling well. Hope you're doing better. So we're talking about being interrupted. Let me know what part of Big Beautiful World you're joining from. We have Greece here today. So good to see you all. Let me know if you have ever been interrupted in a conversation. This channel is going to help you to manage that when it happens. We talked earlier about what are some things you need to do. I talked about it this morning during my drive time. If you're interrupted, I'm just going to go over this very, very quickly. The first thing you want to do is you want to prepare in advance what you need to say. Take a look at the video and you'll learn more. Second is focus on your tone of voice. And third is focus on your eye contact. This is exactly what you want to do if you are interrupted when someone's speaking to you. Now, a couple of things I do want to mention to you. When someone interrupts you, there's a certain type of decision making you have to do. And I talk about this a lot on my channel. There's several videos when I talk about someone interrupting you or giving you a hard time when you're speaking. You have to determine, is this intentional or is this not intentional? Now, what I mean specifically is that there are times when people are intentionally interrupting you, meaning that it is about you, it is about what you're saying. Maybe they're trying to prove a point, maybe they're trying to make you look bad. It could be any of those. The other part of it is that it could be unintentional, meaning they don't mean to do it, they didn't think about doing it, they just are just one of those people that just wants to talk. Now, let me know in the comments below, have you ever been interrupted before? And if you have been interrupted before, let me know in the comments below what happened and how did you manage it. Let's talk about it. So remember, there's this decision making you have to make, not slowly, fast. You have to decide this very quickly. Is this person interrupting me on purpose, or are they interrupting me by accident or unintentionally? You have to make that determination first. Now, let me go into the chat, make sure I say hello to everyone. This is one of the few lives, and thank you for the heart emojis, on YouTube where I will actually say hello to you. Many of the lives do not do that. Okay, let's see. We have Riker says, I like your hair. Thank you. I appreciate that, Riker. And we have Adkesia DeCalis. I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm sorry about that. It says, nice topic. And we have Cat 23rd Hell. Welcome back, Cat. Hope you're doing well today. And Cat says, hey, hope I ain't late. No, you're not late. You're right on time. Good to see you. Good to see you. Jeremy Bullwinkle, welcome back, friend. How you doing today? Jeremy says, hello, my doctor friend. Hello, hello. And Riker says, you can call me by my nickname, Gug. Okay. Hello, welcome, welcome. Appreciate the heart emojis. So we just laid out what you need to do if you are interrupted. Just a superficial, just to get us started. I talked about it a little bit more in my video this morning, and you'll learn more if you watch the drive time video. Now, as I mentioned, very quickly, you have to determine, is this person interrupting me on purpose, or are they interrupting me accidentally or unintentionally? Depending on what decision you decide to make will sometimes determine how you respond. Sometimes you may find that the person is not doing it on purpose, and you have to respond to them in a way that may be a bit direct, but it might be polite, saying, are you going to let me finish talking? Are you going to let me finish speaking, and etc. If someone is intentionally interrupting you and you can tell that it's intentional, then this is where you have to change your tone of voice and have to communicate in a very, very, very direct way in this situation, and be prepared to potentially go back and forth depending on the level of it. Now, I want to go into a lot more detail, and thank you so much for the heart emojis. I want to go into a lot more detail in terms of what I mentioned earlier about going into your specific templated responses. You have to have something that you're going to say when someone interrupts you. You can't just go into the conversation, let someone interrupt you, and wait for that time to happen for you to figure it out. This is why you need to plan ahead, especially if you are dealing with more high stakes, more high pressure situations, which is what I talk about in terms of communicating on this channel specifically. Now, I want to also mention to you another critical aspect of being able to communicate in those challenging situations. If someone interrupts you, is actually something that you would not think, that I've already mentioned, but I'm going to talk to you about how this is so important. But let me go into the chat really quickly. So Gug says, you can call me by my nickname. Okay, well, I got that. Cat 23rd says, since I just got here, do you mind telling me what's today's topic, please? Absolutely, Cat. You know I would do that for you. We're talking about, you were interrupted when you were speaking. Now what? And I know, Kat, you were present this morning. We talked about it briefly. But today, in this live in the evening, I'm going to go into a lot more detail in terms of some specific things you can do when you're interrupted. Okay, we have, let's see, Adkesia DeCalis says, despite the fact I'm the king of Greece, I'm being interrupted multiple times. I imagine what is happening to plain people. So tell us about it. I know there's something that happens to many of us, especially if we're in leadership roles. And I want to help you be prepared when that happens so that you can respond in an appropriate way. Earlier this morning, I mentioned to you that sometimes when people interrupt you, that you have to basically reset the tone. There may have been a time at Kesia that they perhaps interrupted you in the past. And it depends on how you responded to them in terms of what they do. What I have found that happens sometimes is that if a person, let's say they are either intentionally or unintentionally, happen to interrupt you when you are speaking, then if you let them interrupt you and the conversation continues to go on, in that person's mind, they're going to say, oh, it's okay to interrupt him. It's okay to interrupt her. They'll be fine. And they will continue to talk to you in that type of way, or they may feel as if they can just interrupt you whenever they feel like it, because in that conversation, you lost your competitive edge in terms of being able to make sure that you defend yourself so that this person knows they can't talk to you that way. If that happens, it's okay. There's ways we can go about correcting that. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. And Gug says, I'm still sorry to be asking. No problem if you're asking a couple questions. Cat 23rd says, reclaim the floor calmly. Yes, so Cat, let's talk about that, which is a really great insight. I appreciate you so much for bringing that up. How can you reclaim the floor quietly when this situation happens? As I mentioned, preparing in advance. You have to know what it is that you are going to say when someone interrupts you. Whether you say, excuse me, whether you say, pardon me, whether you just flat out say, I was speaking, it depends on the conversation. If you're trying to reclaim the floor, as Kat said, quietly, calmly, you may want to use, excuse me, pardon me, I was speaking. Now, that's one part of it. Okay, one part is you have to have some templated response when someone interrupts you that only you feel comfortable saying. The second part is your tone of voice and your eye contact. But your eye contact, believe it or not, is actually just as important as your tone of voice. Now, I want to tell with you specifically an example. If you watch any of my videos on my live tab, take a look for the videos that talk about eye contact. I have a specific analogy that I use with my clients. I talk about on YouTube that is the cowboy analogy in terms of how I personally deal with eye contact. Now, eye contact, if you can master this skill, you just automatically set yourself up ahead of everybody else. I say this a lot on my channel. When it comes to communication, people struggle with three main aspects of it. There's different parts of communication people struggle with, but there's three that are the big ones. The first is eye contact. The second is silence. And the third is facial expressions. Now, this person that happened to be interrupting you probably is not a master of these skills like you are for either subscribing to this channel or working with me directly. Therefore, when this situation happens, and if you can directly look at someone that interrupted you, it is going to put a bit of tension in the conversation, because this person that interrupted you, whether they're doing it intentionally or unintentionally, will feel that this conversation has shifted. Now, you can look at this person and not say a word. You can look at this person and it changes the entire dynamic of the conversation. This is how powerful eye contact can be. And if you're struggling with eye contact and you happen to be in my target audience, this is a fantastic time for you to schedule a executive strategy session with me so we can talk about how we can get over that with you. But this is very important. So at Kissia DeCalis says, I can give you an idea. If a person interrupts you, just continue your speech calm. And once you've finished, just look at him or her 3 to 4 seconds quiet, and he or her will get the message. So that's a really good point. And I appreciate you so much for mentioning that. You should absolutely subscribe to my channel, because you're the kind of person that definitely has dealt with some challenging situations, and I appreciate your insight. That's a good point. And your eye contact, believe it or not, you can sit there and say nothing at Kitsia and just have straight contact with someone. And as I mentioned, it makes the conversation have a different dynamic. It adds a little tension to the conversation, and thank you for the heart emojis, because most people are not comfortable with it. When you look at somebody directly, and you're staring at them, they're going to think, oh my gosh, this person is really staring at me. You are already sending a message that, wait a second, you just interrupted me. That's not okay. And this is the reason why your eye contact even if you struggle with speaking, if you just make direct eye contact, it will help you out tremendously to set the tone with other people. Kat says, don't raise your voice to win the floor. Stop, breathe once, and let them finish. Yes, and that is very good, Kat. I appreciate you mentioning that also. This is where you have to manage your emotions under pressure. And I talk about this a lot on my channel. There's several videos, if you're new to me, where we talk about the fundamentals, I would say, that you want to make sure you learn. Thank you for the heart emojis, the smiley faces, and the celebration caps. There's a couple of videos that will help you as a baseline just to get you started in terms of being able to communicate in a more advanced type of way in these very high stakes or challenging situations. Tone of voice, eye contact, body language, facial expressions are all really great foundations in managing your emotions under pressure, which is what Kat alluded to, because you have to find some type of way for you to be able to regulate yourself when you're upset. I talk about this a lot on my channel. There are certain triggers that you have to prepare yourself for. There are times when people are going to interrupt you and you're going to be able to handle it with no problem. But there are times when people are going to interrupt you and you are going to be caught off guard and you're going to say, whoa, in your mind, I cannot believe they asked me that. And then those emotions start to kick in and you start to respond in a very aggressive, rude way. You have to take some time to know what your triggers are. Everybody has them. I have them just like everybody else. But the key is not only just knowing your triggers, but preparing some type of templated response for these triggers when they come up. If it just so happens to come up and somebody interrupts you and they trigger you. Maybe you're in a project or you're working on a project and you've been working hard on this project. And maybe you're in a group meeting and you have this one person that is giving you a hard time and just so happens to decide to interrupt you while you're speaking. This could be a trigger for you. If you're putting in a lot of time, frustration, work into a major project and someone says, well, I don't understand why it's taking so long, and they interrupt you, that can be a trigger and you may respond in a very not nice way. And sometimes I'll tell you, depending on what is happening, there are times when you have to respond in a different type of way. Just depends. That's a whole nother conversation we can have. But just know that, yes, respond in a calm way. You need to do that, but you have to know your triggers so you can make sure you know how to do that. All right, let me see what else is going on in the chat. Thank you, Doug, for saying you like my glasses. I appreciate that. Kat says, can you use steady, neutral phrases? Yes, those are some really good examples that you mentioned. Steady, neutral phrases would be, excuse me, pardon me. Just be very, very calm in your response, and your eye contact is key. Your tone of voice is important too. Your tone of voice, and I talk about this a lot on my channel, you have to know your own baseline. I know my baseline, and so do my clients that I work with them that are women in leadership. But you have to know your baseline. And if you find yourself in a situation where someone has, let's say maybe you don't know if this person is intentionally interrupting you or unintentionally interrupting you, I would highly recommend for you to use those steady phrases, just as Kat mentioned, and you have to respond to them in a very direct way. It doesn't necessarily have to be in an aggressive way or in a rude way, but you have to still respond in a very direct way, because your tone of voice has to set the tone that what you just did is not okay. Even if you think it's intentional or unintentional, if they're friendly or they're an enemy or a frenemy, it doesn't matter. You still have to make your tone to where there's something that changed in this conversation. So for example, if someone interrupts you and you're talking, saying something specifically, and they just talk over you really quickly, you can go about it one of two ways. You can either look at them and stay silent for a moment and then say what you have to say, or you can immediately interject and say, excuse me, I'm speaking. It just depends on your situation and what you feel like is the right thing to do. You may have situations where people are just talking, or maybe they're just excited about what you're talking about, and they just get so excited and they just have to say something. you may want to pause with those individuals. But if you the least bit feel like this person is maybe doing it on purpose and they're interrupting you on purpose, you want to respond relatively quickly because the room is watching, and that's what I focus in on. At Kesia says, interesting topic, live. I prepare a coffee. P.S. King of Greece straight from my 500-meter tower. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you like the topic, and I appreciate you being here. And thank you so much, Gug, for the smiley faces and the hearts there and saying, I love this. Absolutely. The topics I talk about on this channel, there's a lot of things that people talk about, especially as it relates to communicating. And there's tons of communication channels out here. And I talk about communication too, because this is a passion of mine. I've been a public speaker for over 20 years, and I've been in very friendly and very contentious situations as a C-suite executive and etc. But what happens when that conversation goes under pressure? That is the gap that I found, and that's the reason why I'm so incredibly passionate about giving you all and sharing what I've learned over the past 20 years to help you be able to be that person that can manage these complex situations and still maintain your authority, still maintain your visibility, your credibility. So when the room sees you and someone interrupts you, that they know, oh, this person they can handle themselves under pressure, or they may say, oh, this person just lost it. I feel bad for them. And they may try to gravitate towards someone else. I want you to be that leader that stands out, whether you are in my direct target audience as a woman in leadership, or you are outside of my audience and you are a man in leadership, or someone thinking about leadership. I'm here to really help you be that person that stands out from everybody else. All right, so Kesia says, you don't respond when you've been interrupted. Just continue calm, like you said, nothing. And once you finish, you look at him or her for 3 seconds. You can't. There's different ways you can do it though at Kesia, and I've been in different situations where sometimes you do want to just stay silent and pause, but then there's sometimes at Kesia you have to respond quickly. It just depends on what's going on, and it depends on the dynamic you're having. I have found that if you are in a situation where someone is intentionally interrupting you, you need to respond quickly. And let me tell you why. Because the room is watching you. The room is watching you. And if you are in a room and someone interrupts you like that, most of the time, the room, collectively, they are not, when someone interrupts, they're looking at who is speaking. And if you are in a situation where someone interrupts you, the people in the room, now I'm talking about, this is very highly visible roles. This is what I focus on. I've been in these situations, so that's why I'm sharing it with you. And thank you for the heart emojis. The room is looking at who's talking. If you decide that time, and let's say this is a person that you know is doing it on purpose, the room is going to look to see what they're saying, not you. So if you decide you're going to stay there and maybe look at them quietly and silently, as you mentioned, which there's times for that at Kesia, there are. If you stay there quietly and you sit there and wait, the room is going to think, oh, this person interrupted at Kesia. Oh, it's okay for us to do that. It's okay to do that. That is a situation where I would respond immediately. Why? Because I'm in a setting with other people. If we were having a one-on-one conversation and someone interrupted me, that's a perfect time for you to stay silent and look at them, because it's just the two of you. However, the dynamics change when the room is watching. And if you find yourself in a situation where someone's interrupting you, as I mentioned, people, they may not be at your level because hopefully you're subscribed to this channel, but they're not observing everybody as closely as you are because hopefully you subscribe to the channel. They're going to automatically just listen with their ears. They're not going to observe like I teach you here. They're going to listen to who's talking, and they're going to look at that person and not look at you. So if you're in a group, I personally would respond fast, lightning fast, because the room needs to know there's something changed in the dynamic. And at Kesia said something. There's something wrong. They were just interrupted. If you're in a setting where you have a friendly, someone that's just excited to just be in your presence, right? They just want to talk to you. They're just excited about what you're doing. And you know this person is a friendly and they're just excited. Then you might want to pause and then do that. Why? Because the dynamic is different. You know this person is friendly and they're just excited. However, we've talked about this on the channel too. There are times at Kesia when you have those still friendly people that just continue to interrupt you. Then you have to change the dynamic if you need to. But for most part, if you have somebody that's friendly and you know they're doing it unintentionally, you can maybe pause a little bit before you actually respond to let them know, I need you to stop interrupting me. But if you continue to see it happening over and over again, there comes a point in time where you have to let them know the room is watching. And you have to be able to do that. Okay, so let's go into the chat. Kat says, interruption isn't always disrespect. Sometimes it's anxiety. Yes, and that, Kat, that's such a great point that you bring up. Interruption is not always disrespect. It's not. You will have people that are unintentionally interrupting you because either they're excited or they may be really nervous. Just as Kat mentioned, they may be just really anxious about a project and they don't know how to do some of the skills that I share with you here in terms of mastering silence, mastering your nonverbal cues. They are not comfortable with those three categories that people usually struggle with as it relates to communicating. And silence is one of them. So you may have people that do that. I will share with you, I was in a position where I had this one person, nicest individual in the world, very nice, very helpful, always very kind. And he just constantly interrupted me. It wasn't me. It was everybody. It just wasn't me. I had to learn initially. Thank you for the heart emojis. I had to figure it out, as I mentioned to you. And I'm sharing with you exactly what I do. I had to figure it out. Is it just me that he's interrupting, or is it everybody that he interrupts? And I had to observe, as I teach you all here and talk about my channel, and I determined that, yes, he interrupts everybody. He just excited. He'll just go in, interrupt everybody, regardless of what you say. He's just got something to say. And as it continued to go on and on and on and on, I would have to be in a very jokingly type way to say, will you please let me finish saying what I have to say? And I would have a smile on my face indicating that I know you're interrupting me and I know you're not doing it on purpose. I know you're really excited, but I need you to stop. You still have to change the room. And I'm talking about when I'm in a room full of people, I still, regardless if they're friendly or not, the room is watching you. The room is watching you. And you really have to just navigate those situations and determine what you want to do. And when I would say that, the guy would say, oh, I'm so sorry. And he would let me finish. That's an example of when it's a friendly person. It's a very, very friendly situation. Sometimes as a leader, it could be friendly. It could be somewhat friendly, or it could be contentious. It just depends. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Cap. At Keitsia says, in addition, you don't raise your tone. Keep it the same stable way. Yes, and at Keitsia, this is why knowing your baseline is important and your tone is important too. Now, there's sometimes where you have to change your tone of voice. It just depends on the conversation and what you're having. I've been in situations where someone may raise their voice a little bit and you have to determine, do I need to elevate my voice or keep it the same? Sometimes, majority of the time, you're going to keep your voice the same. But there's certain situations, and I'm being honest with you, where you may have to elevate, not raise your voice. Now, I never would say to do that. But your voice may be a little bit higher than normal, just depending on what's going on. I share this because I've been in those contentious situations, and I've had to do that sometimes. Kat says, the calmest person in the room usually holds the power. The calmest person in the room, majority of the time, holds the power, I would say. I would say majority of the time. So, Kat, that's a really good observation, because there's a certain amount of calmness that you have to have as a leader, especially when you are under pressure. And if you are at a place where this is something where you're struggling with it, it makes it very difficult for you to advance in your career. Sometimes you're overlooked, because the people that really stand out are the people that are very calm under pressure. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here to support you all, so that you can be more calm in those very high stakes, high pressure situations, so that you're that person that Kat's talking about that holds the power in the room. Ekisia says, okays on the balcony. Ekisia says, question, what if someone interrupts you with a karate ninja movement? Well, if someone interrupted you with a karate ninja movement, then you have to plan for that too. You would have to make sure that you're in a situation where you are in a decent enough distance from someone to move back and dodge if you needed to. That's what I would say to that. Millie Arans, welcome back, Millie. How are you doing today? Good to see you, Millie. Good to see you. Akesia says, welcome, Millie Arans. Enjoy, want some coffee. So Akesia is in Greece. So Akesia is in Greece making coffee right now. So we talked about quite a bit so far. So we've talked about a couple things as it relates, and I appreciate you all so much for your dialogue. There's a lot of people that watch the replays after the live, and what happens is that when people watch the replays, they're learning from our dialogue. They can't see the chat, but they can hear how we're communicating and the points that you brought up. Kat brought some really great points. Akesia has brought some really great points too. And my mission really is to help as many people as I can in the world. I know many of us may never ever meet each other. I'm based out of the States, and I still want to be able to support you and help you any way that I can, even if we never get to interact, but a lot of people get to learn too. All right, so Akesia says, hi, you have a great sense of humor. I do have a sense of humor. I do, absolutely. And Akesia says, knowledge and fun, glad. Yes, absolutely. We definitely talk about great topics. We've talked about funny topics also. So this is a really fun live. It just depends on where the conversation goes. But yes, in a situation where there's ninja movement, you want to make sure you got enough distance. Why do I say that? I've been in situations where I didn't have ninja movements happen to me, but I had people want to do ninja movements on me. And I've learned you have to have a certain amount of distance when you're across the table, which is why a lot of people have a desk in their office in case something goes bad and somebody lunges out to you. You got to have space. Now, you may be wondering, why do I know that? I know, exactly. Things like that can happen often. But I talked to you about interrupting. If someone interrupts you, as a recap, just know that it might be intentional. It may be unintentional. You have to make that determination fast in terms of what it is, because the way you respond determines on if it's on purpose or if it's not on purpose. If you need some support with this and you are in my audience as a woman in leadership, contact me for an executive strategy session at my business website, exciteexcellence.org. Number 2, you want to also make sure that you're observing the person. And people may say, well, how do you know if it's intentional or unintentional? Sometimes you just have to, it just depends on the conversation and what's going on and the relationship you have with the person. But oftentimes you have to observe and see what's going on. Your tone of voice, as we talked about with Akesia and also with Kat, 23rd, your tone of voice is really important. A steady tone of voice is a great way to be safe in terms of how you communicate. But the most important strategy you want to do as a nonverbal gesture when someone interrupts you is your eye contact. As Akesia had talked about before, your eye contact is very, very, very important. It sets the tone and it makes the tension in the conversation to be a little bit heightened because someone has done something that was not polite, that was rude in terms of interrupting you. And you just don't want to be that person that everybody looks at in the room that says, you know what? That person interrupted this person. It's okay for me to interrupt them too. Because believe it or not, people will do that. All right, so Akesia says, distance, yes, unless the karate ninja movement comes from a pretty woman like you. In that case, I surrender. Well, I wouldn't do any karate movements on anybody, actually. I would not do that. Kat 23rd says, I have a question or two, Doc. Yes, Kat, go ahead and ask me your questions before we wrap up. I'll be happy to answer anything I can, and thank you for the heart emojis. All right, Gug says, I'm back. Welcome back, welcome back. Now, I will say while I'm waiting for Kat's questions, what I'm sharing with you right now, a lot of people don't talk about it on YouTube. They sometimes you'll hear people that are in different situations that you can just tell, they're going to tell you how to do something, but it's the most highest level of what you can do. It would say, okay, for instance, this topic may say, oh, specifically, maybe interrupting you. They'll tell you, well, just talk to them politely. Just talk to them politely and be very calm. Will that work for you? Maybe, but you need to know specifically what you need to do. And that's what I talk about here on my channel. Kat 23rd says, how can I assert myself without sounding aggressive? Absolutely. So let's talk about that. Depends on the situation and where you are. The best way for you to assert yourself and not sound aggressive, there's so much that goes into it. And I know you're subscribed to the channel, and if you ever need any support, contact me directly so we can work together. But a lot of it has to come down to what do you feel as if that you are portraying when you are speaking to people? Do you feel like people see you as a very positive contributor or someone that may be a bit more shy? And so you have to kind of know, well, how are people seeing me? And sometimes you may have to ask. But I do also want to say this too. When you're trying to assert yourself, your tone of voice is actually really, really important. Your tone of voice and your eye contact is really important. If you have a situation that comes into play where you need to assert yourself, or maybe there's a perspective that you have specifically and you need to say it to someone, then how you communicate it is really, really important. Know specifically, Cat 23rd, what is important to you. A lot of times people, thank you for the heart emojis, they struggle with being assertive because they just do not feel like they can advocate for themselves. You may have something, maybe you're advocating for a higher salary, maybe you're trying to get a different position, maybe you're trying to obtain a project, a business client, or something else. You have to know what's important to you, because that assertiveness has to come from a place of confidence. And a lot of times, if you're not confident about what you're saying, that assertiveness will not be there either. So you have to know what is it that's really important to you that you need to get your point across on. Once you figure that out, when you speak to people, your tone of voice is really important. Being able to start becoming a master of those 3 areas of communication I mentioned earlier, your facial expressions, controlling your facial expressions, eye contact, and being able to be silent will help you assert yourself. So you just want to be polite. I think one of the things that people I would say they get very frustrated with is when someone tries to assert themselves in a very rude way. That means their tone of voice was off. Therefore, if you want to assert yourself, make sure your tone of voice is the same as your baseline normally is. For example, if I said, "Hey, Kat, how are you doing today?" "Hello, Kat, how are you?" And the next day I say, "Hey, Kat," and then I would just go about my business, you would say, "Hey, what's going on with this person? Why are they acting in this way?" Sometimes when people are trying to assert themselves, they bring in that authority and they bring attitude. So when they bring attitude normally does not sound happy. Attitude normally sounds like attitude, like someone has an attitude. So Kat, the next time you're trying to assert yourself, think about how you're being perceived as. What is it that's really important you need to get your point across? And then make sure your tone of voice is correct. It's calm, like you said, using neutral words, being very calm about it, but making sure that you control your eye contact and your facial expressions and silence too, because even if you are communicating in a very calm way, your eye contact will let somebody know that you mean business and that you're being very assertive. Eye contact is probably one of the most powerful skills that you can develop and master. Take a look at a couple of my videos that talks about eye contact. I'll talk about the cowboy analogy, but it is probably one of the most important things you want to learn if you're trying to become more assertive, because it starts right here. What are they looking at? What are your eyes communicating to other people? Are they communicating that you're nervous? Are they communicating that you're not sure? Are they communicating that you're confident? Or are they communicating that this is serious, this needs to be taken care of? So just keep those things in mind. Okay, let me see. At Kesia says, "Welcome back, Deborah." Okay. Okay, it says, "Hello." Okay, Kat also says, "Why do I feel triggered when someone interrupts me?" Most of the time, Kat, you'll feel triggered when someone interrupts you because it's rude. It's rude. It's very disrespectful. And the reason why you'll feel a bit more triggered when that happens is because there's a lot that goes through our mind that we're trying to process quickly to figure out, how do I manage this situation when someone interrupts me? And the triggering normally comes from, you may not know what to say, you may not know how to say it, or anything like that. It could be an emotion, a topic that's a trigger for you. We talked about that earlier today. It might be a trigger. So that's something just to keep in mind as well. This is something that can trigger you, especially when you're interrupted. Because it's rude, you may not know what to say, which is why we came up with, at the very beginning, we talked about this morning also, is you have to plan what your responses are in advance and figure out what it is you need to say, and know that you are a valuable person just like everybody else, and you do not deserve to be interrupted. You just don't. You don't need to be interrupted. And that may be why it triggers you, because there may be some aspect of the conversation, or maybe not even that. There may be just some aspect within what you're trying to manage that you're just not feeling as comfortable with, because this is something that's new. Now, for me specifically, I've been in really contentious situations. Therefore, Kat, I'm comfortable with someone interrupting me because I know I'm going to handle it. But the more you start to develop your communication as someone that can deal with those very high stakes, high pressure situation, the more you start to build up your muscle. It's just like if you go to the gym or you work out or you learning a skill, there takes time for you to build it up. And of course, being subscribed to my channel, which I know you are, you're building that skill. Because if you know that something, people are triggering you when you're interrupted, why is it triggering you? That's me from an executive coaching standpoint. Thank you for the heart emojis. I would want to know, why is it triggering you? Is it something that they said? Is it the way they said it? Is it who said it? Is it when they said it? Was it in front of a group of people? Was it not? So in an executive coaching session, I would dive deep to figure out why do you feel triggered? I can tell you how to respond and what you need to say and how you need to say it. But there comes a point in time where I have to really dive into you to see what is it. What is that barrier? What is that challenge? What is that area you may not feel as confident or ready to deal with when someone interrupts you? And that's something that in a group setting like YouTube where we're talking, I can't dive into that much because we're in a group setting. But in a one-on-one, I definitely can. So those are some reasons why you might be triggered. You just may not be comfortable in terms of what's being said, but there could be something deeper there. That's the reason why I would say an executive coaching session would definitely be helpful for you. All right, so Akeisha says, welcome, Deborah. Want some coffee, maybe breakfast. Dang Chili. Hello, Dang Chili. Welcome back. I know you've been here before. Good to see you. Dang Chili says, hey, y'all, just joined. What's up? Well, good to see you. Good to see you. Deborah Dickinson says, no, thank you, but thank you for asking. Akeisha says, Deborah, if you change your mind, don't hesitate. Okay, fantastic. We have Stug0 DANK. Hello, welcome, welcome. Cat 23 says, my notepad just ran out, been taking notes. Absolutely. Well, you know the videos here they're here forever. And if you have any questions, Cat, especially as you're watching any videos, or if anything comes up for you, just send me a message here on YouTube. Send a comment and I'll read it. You're welcome to reach out to me at Excite Excellence. I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on Instagram also. On LinkedIn, I spend a bit more time on Dr. Jacinta Lamantai, so you're always welcome to just reach out to me and contact me on any of those platforms. Instagram, I know a lot of people are on Instagram also. Just send me a message. Just follow me and send me a message, and I'm here to help you any way that I can. Deborah Dickinson says, language Stug, and like and comment and subscribe, please. Well, thank you. I appreciate that so much. Cat 23 says, I appreciate it. I'll reach out when I get something. Yes, absolutely. I'm here to support you all any way that I can. I know how it is when you're trying to develop yourself and you're dealing with these very high stakes, high challenging situations, and you don't know what to say. You don't know when to say it. You don't know how to say it. You don't know where to say it. People are watching you. You feel embarrassed. You feel nervous. You feel scared. You're terrified. Your palms are sweaty. Your eyes are watering. Your nose is itching. I mean, whatever. All those things happen in our mind when we're in those very challenging situations. And I want to help you all overcome those challenges and support you and give you what I've learned over the past 20 years. And I didn't have somebody tell me this, everyone. These are strategies that I have developed and learned over the years because I had to make mistakes. You're learning from the mistakes that I've made. I've been interrupted many times, and I have not handled it the way that I handle it now, which is the reason why I don't want you to handle it that way. I want you to handle it in the way that I'm sharing with you so you don't make the mistakes I make, lose credibility. People think they can talk to you in a old kind of way and give you a hard time and prevent you from advancing in your career. I do not want that from any of you. I want you to be that person when they talk to this individual, whether they're talking to Deborah Dickinson, Cat 23rd, Akeisha, or Chilling or Dang Tilly or Millie Arans or anyone else here on this live that they say, that is a sharp person. That person communicates very well. I want to be like that person. I want to be that leader. That is what I pray I can do for you all, because I know how hard it is communicating out there, especially in you're in different leadership roles. And if you're a woman in leadership, there's some specific complexities that we deal with specifically that I talk about on the channel. But I want you to be that person everybody says, wow, this person communicates so well. How do you speak so well? That's what I'm here to support you all with. And be that person, as Kat mentioned earlier, that is very calm. The person that's very calm has a lot more authority in the room than people know. Now, there's a lot of things that build up to that also outside of being calm, but we can talk about that on another live in terms of building influence and developing influence and being more persuasive and things like that. So this is very helpful. I'm here to help you any way that I can. Deborah Dickinson says, nice stuff about interrupting. Absolutely. Well, thank you. I appreciate that comment. And if you have any questions, you're so welcome to let me know. Interrupting is something people just don't, it's something that we know that happens, but I would say most of the time when you watch video about people interrupting you, it can go in one or two directions. Sometimes they may be more aggressive with it in terms of, you need to tell this person, no, I'm talking, and etc. But then sometimes they may say, just be just very polite. There's an in-between. You have to determine what's the best way depending on your situation. Cat 23 says, last question of the evening. Yes, Cat, what question you have? Just let me know in the comments below, and I'm here to help you any way that I can. And I appreciate the heart emojis. Deborah Dickinson says, can you go up, please, and read my comment with the hearts? Let me see what comment you had. Let me check. Love the topic is what I see. So thank you so much. I believe that's what you're referring to, right? Because that was the hearts. Thank you. I appreciate you. Kat says, how can I train myself to pause instead of react emotionally? Well, Kat, it's definitely something that it's a process to train that. If you're trying to pause without reacting emotionally, the first thing, Kat, and I know this is maybe not what you're thinking, is you have to know your triggers. That's like number one. You have to know your triggers. If you do not know your triggers, you will always respond emotionally. There's something that is emotional for us. And I don't know what it is for you, Kat. It might be something we talk about in the coaching, executive coaching session, if that's something you're interested in doing, or a strategy session. But you have to know, what are your triggers? Because if you sat down and said, okay, let me think about Kat. What really bothers Kat? Or you can reflect back on times when you were really upset and you were not able to pause because you just reacted emotionally. What was it? And that's from an executive coaching standpoint. What was it that made you want to respond and react emotionally when someone said this, whatever this is? That's number one. So you have to know your triggers. So take some time, Kat, and write down, what are the things that bother you? What are the topics that you know if someone asks you a question about, you may get a little emotional about it, or you may start to express some emotions? What are they? It could be something about your job that you're doing, your role, your family, your business, your education, your specific situation, your finances, your religion. It could be anything. The point I'm making is that you have and sometimes you may find yourself in a situation that says something and you just completely are thrown off guard. And you didn't even know it was a trigger for you because you just didn't know. Those situations happen too, and that's where you have to lean on to responding in a very calm way if you're being triggered by something that you did not know you were going to be triggered as. Now, I will also say, in terms of pausing, sometimes what can help you if you're starting to train yourself to pause is you may want to just close your lips together and just pause for a second. Now, knowing how long to pause and the timing of it, that's something I work with my clients on specifically. But a lot of times, if you just stop talking and just close, it almost helps your mind to think, okay, I'm not talking now. and just pause for a few seconds. That will help you in terms of the actual logistic part of it, the actual technical part of learning how to pause and not react emotionally. You're telling your mind, if your mouth is closed, then your mind is saying, okay, we're not speaking. So let me turn this off for just a second, while it gives you the time to pause. Now, how long you pause and all that, as I mentioned, I work with my clients on that, but that'll give you some insight to keep in mind. At Keisha says, question: the control of speech or a successful management versus people who interrupts has to do with the age, the knowledge. What factors enable someone to manage effectively interruptions? It's a lot of it has to do with your experience. A lot of it has to do with your experience, Akesia. If you've been in situations where you've been interrupted and you know how it is and you know what to do and you know if you're how you manage those interruptions, whether you're one-on-one or you're in a group, a lot of it has to do with experience. And so what I'm sharing with you all is 20 years of my life and my experience where I've had those situations come up. I learned this by purely from experience. And as I mentioned, I've made mistakes along the way. I don't make them anymore because I've learned how to communicate better. But a lot of it has to do with experience. Can you say age? I can't necessarily say that. It really just depends on your experiences. Some people have been in experiences where they haven't had to be in those very high stakes, high pressure situations as leaders. They may have just been able to be that best leader, have no problems whatsoever. But then there's those of us who have been really good leaders that have faced some really challenging situations. And that's the reason why we can share with you from experience exactly how to manage those interruptions effectively. But the deeper part of that is not only is it experience, but also is the type of experience and the training you've had. Many people are not trained to manage interruptions, or how do you effectively manage, as you mentioned, interruptions. This is something people are not trained. There's not a book out there that says, okay, if you're interrupted, you need to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I'm working on that book. But a lot of times it's just such a challenging topic that it is very difficult for people to quantify it or explain it into words where it makes sense. Because sometimes when people are interrupted, they just completely go blank. And they just forget, like, I don't even know what to say or how to even say it. They just interrupted me. But that's the reason on my channel where I talk a bit more, not only the strategy and the techniques you do that I use as a public speaker, but then also from an executive coaching standpoint to help you think of things just a little bit differently. As I mentioned, experience is the key. You could be a person that is 20 years old, 30 years old, that has been interrupted multiple times, and you may have somebody that is 60, 70 years old that has not been interrupted that much. And the person who has been through that experience is going to be able to do and handle that situation a lot better than somebody that may be much older than they are. A lot of it comes down to really your experiences and experiences you've been in. Now, you may be wondering, well, what if I'm not in those experiences? What if I haven't had those experiences where someone's interrupted me, but I really want to be very good at it? If it happens, that's why you subscribe to the channel or reach out to me directly, because you are at least being prepared to start thinking about, okay, someone interrupted me. I remember what Dr. Jacinta said. She said, I need to already have a plan ahead of time. What am I going to say? How am I going to say it? How long am I going to look at them? Am I going to respond immediately, or am I going to wait a little bit just to see? So all of that comes together to help you, if that makes sense, to give you some insight. Because some of you may not be in those situations, or maybe you've been interrupted one or two times, and you just want to be at a place where if someone interrupts you, you just want to make sure that you can handle it, right? You just want to make sure that you're in a situation where you're in a highly visible role. Maybe you're talking to your boards, maybe you're in an interview, maybe you're in a salary negotiation, maybe you're talking to some constituents or etc. You just want to be prepared. You just want to feel as if, I know, and thank you for the heart emojis, I know I can handle this situation. That's why I'm here to help you start thinking and start preparing in advance. Because those situations, they will come up. They will come up for you, especially if you're in a leadership role, whether you're a woman in leadership, or whether you're a man in leadership, or you're thinking about it, you will be interrupted. This is something I will guarantee you at some point in your life you will be. But how you respond to it and where you respond to it and who's watching you is very critical, so that you do not lose authority or lose credibility or lose influence, because it can happen so fast if people think that you're not able to handle yourself under pressure. I hope that gives you some insight. Sometimes I've noticed that it just depends on some people. Age wise, I can't say age has anything to do with if they interrupt you more or not. I think it's just a lot of times it's just people sometimes. Deborah Dickinson says, no, it's not, but it's okay. Oh, okay. I didn't see the other part there. Chom 10, hello, welcome, welcome. Emily Washington, hello, how are you doing? Deborah Dickinson says, the one with the smiley face and the hand in the prayer. Okay, I have to look through that. Cat 23rd says, fight or flight response. Yes, I would say it can be we call it in the medical term, sympathetic and parasympathetic response. And yes, it can be fight or flight, but you have to train yourself in it to know I don't have to fight. I don't have to fight. I don't have to flight. I don't have to flight. The only way you can do it is by training yourself, by immersing yourself in those situations, and by getting good counsel like myself to help guide you to regulate your responses. A few videos that will help you is managing your emotions under pressure. That's a big one. That will help you to not respond in that very emotional way. And the more you do it, Kat, the more you find yourself in these situations, the more you ask questions, the really great questions you've been asking, and the more you start to sharpen how you communicate, the more these situations they are always important, but you'll get to the point it's almost second nature. Like it's just something that you do, you constantly do. You are very comfortable with it because you know this is what you can do. You can be able to have any conversation or not, regardless of being in a good place. One of the things you always want to have just in your back pocket, so to speak, is have some data. You need to have some data, you need to have some statistics, you need to have some numbers in your head, because when you're communicating with people and you're trying to set yourself apart from everybody else, having some numbers in the back of your pocket are helpful, specifically to your discipline, for example. So something related to your field or your study, knowing some data about it will be very helpful to you. That's reliable as well. Deborah Dickinson says the hearts. Kat says low emotional awareness in the moment. Yes, and Deborah Dickinson, the only one I saw with the hearts said love this. I may miss that, so I have to look and see. Low emotional awareness in the moment. Yes, you have to be just aware of what's going on, but you have to be somewhat detached from the outcome. Know what it is that you want to talk about, what's important to you, but then put it just basically you have to program your mind to think highly of yourself. This is one of the things that a lot of people struggle with. Women struggle with this, men sometimes struggle with this too, is that we don't think highly of ourselves. Therefore, when those situations come up where someone's interrupting us or giving us a hard time, we don't feel like we are at a good place where we don't deserve that. We just think like, oh, well, I'm just going to deal with it. Well, I don't want you to do that. But you have to have the training to know how to not deal with it, if that makes sense. Akesia DeCalis says, very well, experience credits, training credits. I think you are two brains in one. Glad, PS, beauty also. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I hope you subscribe to the channel so I can see you again. Deborah Dickinson says, yeah, I'm going to tip it. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. And for me specifically, you said tip it. I'm thinking super thanks. I don't have super thanks just yet because my channel is not eligible for that just yet, but it will be at some point. And I appreciate the heart emojis. Well, let me know what other questions you all have as you're going through the live videos and etc. I am going to be making a playlist specifically when I get some time that will be broken up. I know many of you watched the lives. I know Kat was on live earlier this morning. I'm going to start separating my live videos in the mornings when I'm driving. I'm going to start them with the title of Drive Time. So when you all are looking through my channel and you're looking for content that you want to look at, if it says Drive Time, you know that's when I'm driving. If it doesn't say that, then you'll know that's when I'm sitting and I'm not driving, to give you some more perspective. So I'm going to be doing that. And I'm also going to do some executive presence videos for you all. I know, just like we're talking about now, if you're not in a situation where you're in those challenging situations and etc., it's sometimes hard for you to understand, well, how do I manage it? How do I really do it? What do I say? What do I not say? And I'm going to try to pull out some of my live videos where I've had people say maybe not nice things or things that have been unfriendly or offensive and etc. I'm going to try to carve out those videos specifically with those segments and just put it in my executive presence playlist so that you can see in real time how I deal with those situations. I can tell you all day this is what you should do, how you should do it, etc. But I believe that it will be more helpful to you if you actually see how I manage some of these situations when they come up, because I'm in high stakes situations all the time, especially on YouTube. It just depends on who joins the channel, what they have to say, and etc. So I want you to learn as much as you can from me, and I'll be doing some videos of other people as well as they are presenting themselves, I would say internationally, how they're communicating. And if you have a leader specifically that you want me to review and give you some insights in terms of this is what this leader does really well when they communicate, these are the things that they need to work on when they are trying to communicate, so that you can either make sure you don't communicate that way, or maybe think about adding a couple of those skill sets to how you communicate so you can inspire people, let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to do a review just for you. Well, I appreciate you all so much for being here, and I appreciate you as new individuals that have stopped by, and always my amazing subscribers. I appreciate you all being here as well. You are an amazing group, and I'm trying to build a really strong community. So feel free to like the video and share it to any of your colleagues that you know could speak at a better level and that really want to become that person. When they speak, they say, that's a sharp individual, and they're very polished. I really want to listen to them. This is the best channel on YouTube for them. Akesia says, message to everyone from the King of Greece. Let's see. Okay, let's see. It says, stand on your chair, sofas, hit likes, send flying hearts, and top manager of Human Dynamic. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you, and I appreciate the hearts for everybody. And Kat says, I'm going to send a shout out to you, Doc, when I get to the top. Absolutely. I'm just glad to be a part of your journey. I'm glad to be a part of each and every one of your journey. I've had the really great, amazing honor to see some of you be promoted by listening to the content on the channel and become supervisors and etc. So it just makes my day to help you all any way that I can, and I appreciate the heart emojis as well. Jeffrey Fisher, welcome. How you doing today? Jeffrey Fisher says, without God, you are nothing. I would agree with that. And Deborah Dickinson says, go up. Let's see what, Deborah, what are you talking about before I finish the live? Let me see what you're talking about. It says the one with the smiley faces and the hand. I'm going to look really quickly. I see language thug and like and comment and subscribe, please. I think that's the one. I believe we got it. I believe we got it, Deborah. I think we got the one you're talking about. So I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much. I think we got it. I think we got it. So I appreciate you all. Thank you for the heart emojis. I'm here to support you. Let me know what questions you have about these very complex situations you're dealing with right now. Feel free to know that people come to me for the hard things, the hard conversations that you have to have, and you're worried about having them. Come to me, whatever complex situation you have professionally. I will be able to give you some insight there. Just put a comment in the comments below. Let me know how I can support you and help you all on your journey. So I will see you all in the next video, and I hope you have a wonderful night. Bye for now.